This is Reality Dispatch, written by Jim Mins.
The raccoon was making scratching sounds on the tin roof at the back of her Californian bungalow. At the time, however, she believed it to be a break and enter. The neighborhood was not known for any late-night criminal interludes and was considered a safe, quiet, and well-respected area. But her imagination never allowed her to accept such opinions as assurances. Not helping the situation was her addiction to podcasts with heavy undertones of unsolved crimes, particularly murders. The Netflix algorithm had seized on her fascination with the dark elements of the human psyche in its recommendations. She watched every unsolved criminal documentary the streaming giant threw at her and craved more. This fascination led to deep dives down the YouTube rabbit hole until she found herself regularly taking nerve suppressants just to be able to sleep at night. On a particularly windy night in June, the animal population that found refuge in the walnut trees lining the outskirts of her bungalow were in a particularly festive mood, and this jovial attitude among the rodents spilled out onto her roof. She heard the disruption at 3:30 in the morning and immediately took refuge under the bed sheets, listening as their moon dance played out in violent fashion. The tin roof echoed the distress of one of the animals. Its cries of pain mirrored her own suffering as she endured an increased heart rate, aching in anticipation of relief that was not forthcoming. She grabbed her phone and dialed 911. The operator was robotic in assistance. "How many intruders are there, ma'am?" "Just one, I think." "Just one or two. Can you please be specific?" "No, I can't," she whispered. "I think only one." "Okay. I've just been advised that we have a dispatch on the way to assist you, ma'am. Please stay on the line with me for your safety." She did as she was told and shivered under the bed sheets as the bangs and clatters continued. "Ma'am, are they in the house?" the operator asked. "I'm not sure. I really don't know," she managed to blurt out. Her fear subsided as the sound of car doors closing in her otherwise leafy suburb broke the quiet stretches between bangs on the roof. She dragged herself out of the sheets and up on her knees towards the window that sat at the head of her bed. Looking through the Venetian blinds, the torches of the officers dispatched began making their way in quick formation toward her front door. She dove out of bed and ran towards the door, unlocking the latches and the chain, and swinging the frame open in time to meet her saviors before they had a chance to identify themselves. "Thank God you're here," she announced. "They're out the back." "Ma'am, stay back, please," one officer said. Both reached to their hips and drew their sidearms. They proceeded out towards the back door in combat pose, ready to strike at whoever made their unwanted presence known. "Ma'am, please follow the advice of the officers and remain out of harm's way," she heard the respondent on the line say into the receiver that was resting by her own hips. She was oblivious to the fact that she was still on the line. She watched as the uniformed officers slowly crept inch by inch, step by step, towards the back door of her nest. Their weapons firmly fixed in their hands, rigidly pointing in sharp formation. She had the brief fear that the slightest disturbance would set them off and put a hole in her wall, thereby causing irreparable damage to the property that was the prize of her family for 2 generations. A scream rang out in the crevice above the door, an inaudible scream that one could mistake for an animal. "This is the LAPD. Please raise your hands above your head and be ready to identify yourselves," the big officer ordered. She would later learn that his name was Elwood, Michael Elwood. She watched him take the lead on the operation, and she knew she would be in love with him from that day forward, until the day she breathed her last. When the commotion subsided and the realization emerged that what they were dealing with was a few strange animals either in a territory skirmish or in heat, the officers returned with their weapons holstered to their belts. "Ma'am, we're going to let you off with a warning. Given the sound that was made, could have been mistaken as that of an intruder. But we must implore you to be diligent when you call 911. You just took 2 officers offline over an animal disturbance. That is an offense under California legislation, do you understand?" Officer Elwood explained. She had stars in her eyes. She was warm in her heart. Everything said by this man made her feel happy to be alive. The fact that his vocal range was directed at her gave her a sense of euphoria reserved for brides on their wedding day. She didn't know how to respond. She couldn't. She nodded and swallowed a large gulp of built-up saliva that had amassed the entire time he had set foot in her home. The hour progressed and clicked further to 4. She stared out the bedroom window and longed for the patrol car to return. She imagined it returning to where it had been parked, Officer Elwood walking to her front door and asking the forbidden question. The one that officers on duty were not allowed to ask under such circumstances. The story that they would share with their children and grandchildren when the inevitable query would rear itself. The question of when the beginning of the rest of their lives occurred, the day he would ask for her telephone number. She picked up her home phone and rang 911. Emergency dispatch. How may we assist? Oh, hi, she was stuck. She hadn't rehearsed this bit. I don't have an emergency. There was an officer who just came to my house about 20 minutes ago. I'm Margot Clayton, 46 Dunbar Road, Damon Heights. You remember? She asked. I'm sorry, ma'am. What is your emergency? I don't have one. I'm sorry. I know this is kind of rude and out of the ordinary. She imagined that hypothetical scenario with her fictitious grandchildren when the story evolved into a comedy of errors that ended with her marriage to Officer Elwood. I'm just Officer Elwood. Michael Elwood. He was just at my house for a break and enter. Well, we thought it was a break and enter. Turns out... I'm sorry, ma'am. Did you say you don't have an emergency? That's right. I'm sorry, I know this is unconventional. I'm just after Officer Elwood's. Ma'am. The dispatch was stern. This caught Margot off guard. Calling dispatch is reserved for emergencies only. What you are doing is an offense. Margot was shocked by the outburst. Oh, I'm sorry. It's just... Officer Elwood. 17 minutes passed. Margot lay in bed looking up at her ceiling as the dreams of an unrealized future began to evaporate as quickly as they arrived. Her imagination switched off as the blue and red lights of an approaching squad car parked itself outside the house. The familiar clank of the car doors opening and closing drew her out of bed and up on her feet. She knew it. She knew he'd return. It was too good a story to waste. They would have to tell their children after all. They would be telling them. This time she let the door knock before she answered. As she did, the cold steel of the cuffs clicked around her wrists as Officer Elwood and Officer David East began reading Margot her Miranda rights. In the back of the squad car, she watched his head sway back and forth to the bumps and potholes that lined the Californian streets. She watched her man's head tilt from left to right, unflinching in his duty, the way she loved him for it, the reason she fell in love with him. It had been 3 hours since their paths crossed, but it would be an eternity for her. She smiled as she studied his ears. She imagined their 3 children quickly evolving into 4. She laughed to herself as the car pulled into the station for her to be processed. She gave him the eye that she believed all men wanted to see. He didn't seem to notice as he escorted her into the precinct. Margot Elwood, she whispered as she looked at his profile. She noticed his ear flinch as he got wind of what was being said. That was enough for her, enough of an acknowledgement that her pursuit would not be in vain. Any obsessive crime aficionado needed a partner who understood the game as well as she did. She felt lucky to have Elwood in her life. Even if he didn't know it yet, he would know eventually.
For more stories of fact-based fiction, head to jimmins.substack.com.